Good morning. Today we are at the Santa Maria farm, located in the flat highlands with some highlands in the municipality of Puerto Lopez Meta. Historically, this farm has been dedicated to conventional cattle ranching with a low stocking rate per hectare. However, we are currently working on the transition to regenerative livestock farming. The Santa Maria farm, a family tradition, and with a high vocation for livestock, including horses. This place is committed to the welfare of the animals because its owners are conservationists, which is an advantage to start the process of regenerative livestock. In the past, sustainable practices such as tree planting and paddock division have been implemented. In addition, we have improved the efficacy of the aqueduct and fencing and implemented more intensive grazing. These measures have a positive impact on soil quality, biomass, and health. And today we see improved quality after only 2 years of implementation. Breaking paradigms in livestock farming is a challenge, especially for a woman. Sometimes we encounter resistance when showing changes, but when results are obtained, even in difficult areas like this one, owners begin to recognize the need to improve efficacy on their farms. Initially, one of the biggest obstacles was a rejection of the use of herbicides. However, as the benefits of more efficient and radical approaches such as removing unproductive animals and ensuring bull functionality were demonstrated, farmers began to change their minds. Regenerative livestock farming goes beyond the field. It is a philosophy of life. It is not an easy process, since it implies breaking paradigms and seeking harmony with nature. We should not believe that we can do better than nature, but learn to resemble it. The transformation of a farm towards regenerative livestock farming does not happen overnight. It is a gradual process that starts from a baseline specific to each farm. I have seen farms that manage to transform in 6 months, while others may take 2 or 3 years to reach a balance with the ecosystem. Regenerative livestock farming is a process technology that seeks to harmonize the relationship between soil, plants, animals, and humans. When all these elements are working properly, it is like an orchestra in which all the instruments sound in harmony. However, there will always be challenges and problems to face, such as putting out fires or solving unexpected situations. Our goal is to ensure that the ribbons are calm and work in harmony, providing not only meat and milk, but also a good living and environmental services. On this farm, Bazan rational grazing but we realized that we were not taking advantage of the full potential of the soil. We implemented longer rest periods and also adopted more intensive grazing. For 1 year, we did ultra high density grazing for 4 to 5 daily changes, which helped to reactivate natural soil processes, water infiltration, etc. Currently, we make 3 to 4 changes per day, which I consider a more flexible and adaptable grazing. We have fixed fences that divide the farm into about 40 paddocks of 4 or 5 hectares, and the rest is managed with mobile paddocks using tapes or electrical cords. In total, we work with about 200 animals. We only have one worker, which reduces the workload but allows us to do a more efficient job. If we wanted the worker to make 4 or 5 daily changes, it would not make sense to have many lots, as he would not be able to attend them properly and we would end up with no food on the entire farm. For this reason, we prefer to wean and sell the animals to be cared for on another farm, while we keep the females and manage everything in one herd. We even allow the calves to come in contact with a bull, because if they are ready, they will reproduce, and if not, they will just keep growing. Previously, we had about 40 animals, which was insufficient to cover the cost of maintaining the farm. Therefore, our goal is to wean at least 100 animals. If we exceed that number, we'll be in a continuous process of improvement. It is important to detect unproductive animals and remove them from the farm, as they take up space, pasture, and resources that could be used more efficient animals. We replace them with more productive animals to achieve a balance. As we have enough active and efficient bellies, we will put reproductive pressure on replacement females. As the females we produce are assembled to be better than the cows, as the females we produce are assumed to be better than the cows, we will not eliminate 100% of the cows, but we will leave approximately 20% pressure to remove those that, due to age or fertility, require replacement. One of the key indicators for us is the production of kilograms of meat per hectare. In the case of breeding, our goal is to produce between 150 and 200 kilograms of weaned calf per hectare per year. In our 140 hectares, we should produce at least 140 calves, which is not easy if we do not have a sufficient number of animals. With a normal reproduction rate of 60% in the Llanera region, but estimating to reach 70% or 80%, we could have around 200 active wombs that are reproducing and would give us the 200 kilograms in 160 calves. This way, we would achieve an economic balance, considering that the cost of production on this farm is 100 kilograms per hectare. Anything above that would be profit. The key is not to fall in love with the animals and focus on the numbers. We must be attentive to the control and monitoring process, performing palpations and weighing, Sometimes it may seem tedious, but it is with these tools that we make informed decisions. When we are in the paddock, everything looks nice, and you don't want to move the animals from there, but it is in the pen where we face reality. Grazing time used to be another paradigm for us. We would calculate the time to rest the pastures, but we didn't realize that we left too much left over. It is not the same to have a pasture with 20 or 30 centimeters of structure as one that is almost flush. What we are looking for are well-grazed pastures, which may take longer, but what you get is more leaf than stem. It is not the same to have a poorly grazed pasture for 60 days, as well as grazed pasture for the same period. The level of nutritional quality will be much better in well-grazed grass. However, if we consume the grass early, we are going against the plant, since it needs leaves to perform photosynthesis and reserve energy in its growing points for the next regrowth. It is a process closer to how nature would do it, but we were trying to follow a different model that we cannot replicate here. Therefore, I think we should give the soil more time to recover, since we have done so much damage to it. If we do not allow the plants to make adequate reserves and develop roots, heavy grazing will only result in root mortality, which feeds the soil life and leads to new root growth. This is why rest periods and intense grazing in a short time are so important. No more than 1 day or maximum 4 days to prevent regrowth from consuming the reserves the plant needs. I understand that through the blows we receive from nature we learn. I think one of the most effective things to teach farmers is to show them concrete examples, preferably in difficult conditions. This way they will have no excuses to question. At first, you might say that what works on a small farm wouldn't work on yours, but with time and persistence, we've been practicing this ranching approach for 5 years, and we're getting bigger and bigger. Plus, our soils are improving. Ranchers are beginning to realize that something different is happening. It is easy to compare us with other farms in our surroundings during the same time of the year. If someone visits our farm during the summer, they will find a desert around us and an oasis on our farm. We see that right now, at the end of November, the whole farm is green, and this will continue in December and January. As we add more organic matter to the soil, we store more water. When we improve grazing, roots can penetrate deeper in search of nutrients and water. This makes us more resilient to climate change. However, that does not mean that we are not affected by extreme weather events, such as heavy downpours of more than 50 or 100 millimeters. temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius, or strong breezes. As we mature in this system, we develop greater resilience. On our farm, there is little natural forestation, and that is what provides balance. The farm is like a horseshoe surrounded by a forest edge about 20 meters wide, which is not much. We would like to have more diversity and a larger forest edge, as this gives us stability against climate and disease. We have permanent water in this oasis. In the dry season, we have water trails and a diversity of fauna. If we do not have this, the ecosystem would not be balanced, and we would be constantly against nature. Therefore, ranchers should consider that at least 10% of their farm should be forest, and the rest, 90%, should be well conserved. Taking care of the trees and trying to restore the farm to how it was 60 years ago before the Green Revolution. It requires patience, discipline, and faith that things will change. We can't do anything before we heal the soil. When the soil is healthy, any tree has a good chance of surviving. When we work against the soil, if we plant 100 trees, it is likely that only one or none will survive. It is better to be patient. I believe that today we have a very strong and representative Colombian association of regenerative livestock farming, which is found in more than 12 departments of Colombia. There are models that are more than 2 years old, and many of them involve more than 120 producers throughout the country. We can learn from them, see what they have done well, and where they have gone wrong, and adapt those learnings to our own model. But the most important thing is to unite, not to start alone. Many have started with YouTube videos, but I believe it is better to read, train, participate in pastoral school, field days, tours, seminars, and really invest in ourselves and our workers. We must convince others that this approach can work. Then we can start making small changes, grouping cattle in lots, eliminating herbicides and pesticides, reducing the use of ivermectin and other practices that we considered necessary for production, but that we have now discovered are not necessary. This process does not happen overnight. It requires time and patience, as nature's timing is different. Sometimes by trying to speed things up, man ends up causing more damage. I'm a farmer, and my father taught me to love the land and the countryside, to make a living from it. However, when I got out of college, I realized that money was not enough to transform the plain. I saw many people with a lot of money trying to invest, but the farm did not respond well. So I knew I had to look for another way. 20 years ago, I was fortunate enough to learn about Wazan rational grazing and brought Dr. Pinheiro to see farms. I observed the change, but it was not enough compared to what we achieved today. In the beginning, we were more fearful and less intensive in our approach. We would let the cattle do whatever they wanted during the summer and start from scratch. But now we are more disciplined and intensive, and that has brought us better results. The office is now in the open air without bosses. Our bosses are the cows. They tell us if we are doing well or not. Although they do not really complain or give orders, they are not like customers in a restaurant who return the dish. They eat what we put in them, and even if the numbers are not always right, they don't complain. Sometimes when you have a very free spirit, you can feel that there are no borders and that you can go for miles without finding another car. I feel part of the pack on the same level as them. I feel grateful that cattle breeding has changed. 20 years ago, I thought it was normal to beat cattle, force them to come in and work them hard. But now I understand that cattle respond to other things, handling, docility, good treatment. I see how the animals are changing and transmitting those characteristics to their offspring. We don't have any rough and surly animals anymore. Sure, we know there are always one or two that misbehave when they are out of the herd, but in the meantime, they are very noble. I would like to be more like them, to learn from their humility and how they manage their herds. Where the hierarchy is exercised by the strongest, but that does not mean that another can replace him without consequences. In the herd, the weakest are cared for and protected, especially the calves. In contrast, as a human species, we are less compassionate and more complex when it comes to growing and thriving. 4 years ago, I thought this might fade away, that it was a passing fad. But now I see so many people, young and old, with a lot or little money, getting involved with passion, just like we did in the beginning. I feel I can rest knowing that those to come will continue the work. The only thing I ask for now is time for myself, to rest, to dedicate time to my family, and to enjoy these paradises that do not belong to us, but that we had the capacity and the freedom to enjoy as our own.